Let us start the session by chanting Namo Tassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. All right. So, to today's lesson, can someone please remind us which page we are on for today?
Bhante, it's on 166.
167. Sorry, 166.
Yeah, bottom of 166.
Yes, summary
Right.
13.
Guide to 13.
Yeah.
Right. All right. So before we move on to this section, right, because we are going into Appana, I think. Yes, it is Appana. Right. So if we are to discuss the question that Mala and Damsiri had put forward and also was discussed over the forum, the chat section. Damsiri, would you like to repeat the question, please?
The question was actually initially I asked the question Sankara.
Yeah.
When you say Sankara Paccha Vijnana, the Vijnana has got 5 components. These 6 components. Chakku, Sota, Jiva, Gana, Kaya, and Manovinyana. So our question was actually, how do you define Manovinyana? In addition to that, then when we say, I think the Bhante has mentioned that when you think about something unpleasant, you actually practically no, Bhante, Anit Bhante.
I have trademark Bhante, you see.
Okay. Okay. When you think about something unpleasant, that's because of resultant or vipaka, and how it manifests in your chitta viti, which is in the manodvarajana chitta viti. Right? Because in manodvarajana chitta viti, we know that it's manodvara and then javana and then tadalambana. So when you think something bad as a result of karmic action, how it manifests, what are the components involved in it?
When you think something bad as a result of karmic action, what does
that's right? Yes, as a result of bad karma. Or
when you think something bad as a result of bad karma, what are the chittas that you are talking about, Damsiri?
when you think about bad things, you are actually in the manodvara janaviti.
Okay, so you're talking about because there's a confusion here. Right?
Yeah.
Thinking something bad, right?
Yeah.
Would have to fall within one of the 12 akusala chittas, because you are thinking something bad. However, when now we've spoken about the ahetuka chittas, the ahetuka vipakas, the rootless vipakas,
Yeah.
as a way of course, they are all karma resultant, right?
Mhm.
And what they do is more of a facilitation energy which allows for that respective quality to progress,
Mhm.
right? For example, if we are to see something bad, we
Yeah.
are not seeing that something which is bad because of the karma, but the allowance of the eye to see that is brought about by the ahetuka akusala vipaka,
That's right. Yes. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Ahetuka akusala. So that is two different things, Damsiri.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think that is clear, right? So
Yeah.
that is to say, I can see some eyes going like, what was that?
Yeah.
That is to say, the ahetukas, now we can't say now, let's say, uh, I go to hell or I go to heaven. Let's say I go to heaven, right?
Mhm.
After death, I am born in heaven and I
Mhm.
enjoy heaven, right? Now, when you're enjoying heaven, that enjoyment will be facilitated by the ahetuka kusala vipaka.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ahetuka kusala vipaka.
Yeah.
So, what does this mean? Does this mean that I went to heaven because of a ahetuka kusala vipaka? No, it doesn't. Right?
Mhm.
It doesn't mean so. You can produce your own karmas, your own sort of, you can sort out your own life where you will end up in these places. It is only the facilitation of the sense bases which is done through the ahetukas.
Mhm.
Right? We can't say that I am in heaven because of purely my past karma. You can't
Mhm.
say so because it can purely be that you really worked hard for it, you died, and you were reborn in this suiting place according
Yeah.
to the mind, the samadhi, etc., that you developed whilst you were living.
Yeah.
Right? So
Okay.
that is the first part, Damsri, that I want
Yeah. Yeah.
to
Yeah.
sort of
Yeah.
clarify that part.
Yeah.
Right? Now, when we talk about manodhatu and mano vinyana dhatu,
Mhm.
right? As we spoke on the phone, I just want to
Yeah.
repeat that to the rest of the class as well.
Yeah.
Mano dhatu, now when the word dhatu comes, the word dhatu refers to the connection or the association with physical phenomena. I'm sorry, the physical base.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, for example, the Panchadvara Vachana Chittas or the five sense door adverting Chittas, which is altogether 10, is part of Manodhatu.
Yeah.
Why? Because that consciousness arises associating the object which was derived from where? The eyes, the nose, the tongue, the ears, the body. Right? So, so what are the chittas which are found within Manodhatu? Now, actually, we don't need to discuss it, right?
Yeah.
Now, however, it needs to be clear that in Manodhatu, the Dvipancha Vinyana, the 10
Yeah.
Panchadvara Vachana, and the Sampatichana chittas arise together, taking or based on that object that we derived through the five sense doors.
Yeah.
And then Mano Vinyana Dhatu means when, Mano Vinyana Dhatu, when the word Vinyana comes in, that talks about the association of just the mind.
Yeah.
Not the five sensory bases. So then all the rest, the 76 chittas, other than the 76 chittas, reducing or deducting the 10 Panchadvara Bhajana and the 2 Sampadichana.
Yeah.
Right? Are all or are all counted in as Mano Vinyana Dhatu.
Yeah.
Right? Mano Vinyana Dhatu. Now, when we talk about, is that clear, everyone?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah? Everyone else?
Bhante, some of the words, can you please say it in English, please?
Mano Vinyana Dhatu.
Bhante, it's on page 146. There's the chart. It's easy to
Lovely.
see.
Page 146. I don't even know the English word for those actually.
Yeah, it's mind element and mind consciousness element.
The mind element and the mind consciousness.
Yeah.
Page again, please.
146.
146. Let's go to 146.
Table 3.7, Bhante.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, there you go. Right. All remaining is a mind consciousness element. Right. So, Damsiri, what is the other question following
The
this?
question is, okay, that's when it comes to Panchadvarajana, right? Now, while I'm lying on the bed, shut all my sensory perceptions and thinking I'm activating only the mind, I see something very unpleasant. I remember something unpleasant.
Yeah.
Right. So because that unpleasant thing came into my mind as a vipaka or the resultant. Right.
Are you asking that or are you saying that?
I'm asking it. So no,
Just
is it now the that unpleasant happening came into my mind because of the resultant of one of my past karma. Okay. Now it's same as, so think about the analog with the eye. When I see something unpleasant through my eye, it's because of I see unpleasant thing because it's a manifestation of my karmic results. Right. Same way, when I think something unpleasant, it's the manifestation of some karmic results what I have done. Now, you explain the Panchadvarajana very nicely. Can you explain the same process, Manodvarajana Viti? How it, because there's no in Manodvarajana Viti, there's no Sampatichana Santirana.
Yeah.
It's only Manodvara.
Yeah.
And Javana and perhaps registration.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, how do you explain that one?
All right. Now, when it comes, let's go to page number
166, Bhante.
sorry, 166.
That's a mind process.
Yeah.
Page number 166, right? Now, in page number 166, we see the clear object and the obscure object that the mind has.
Yeah.
Right? Now, here, the grappling of the object, right? The grappling of the object would happen at the process of because here in the same way, the vibrational, the arresting takes place. So there is a conversion from bhavanga to this process, right?
Yes.
To this process, which then would sort of imply that there is a disturbance to that same bhavanga which flows, which then gives rise to that arresting bhavanga, which closes that part of the process and sort of creates this other process with a different object or chitta.
Yeah.
Right? However, although this object does not have a sensory base,
Yeah.
still the object is the object, whether mind or physical base. And it similarly takes one mind moment for that object to mature into something which then now can cause bhavanga to arrest.
Yeah.
Right? The bhavanga to arrest. Then there goes on in the javana process, or the javana process and the registration which follows.
Yeah.
Now, when we remember that we spoke about the omaka kusala and omaka kriya chittas, right? Where now, for example,
Can't remember, Bhante.
the omaka, okay, I remember speaking about this, but we did not go deep into it. Actually, we just swept through it.
Omaka in the sense, Bhante, it's a stronger.
No,
No.
no,
So-
That
low
is-
down.
Okay, low strength. Yeah,
Low-
sorry.
weaker.
Yeah.
That clear object and the obscure object, is that what you're referring to?
No, let me explain,
No.
please. Now, when we take the in the process of patisandhi, or in a process of kusala, let's say, right? There are not all kusalas are powerful, right? There must be now in that we have studied in a basic sense about the kusala. Now let's just refresh our memory. We have the beautiful chittas, right? The beautiful chitta. The first beautiful chitta is Somanasa Sagata, Jnana Sampyutta, Asankarika, right? Then we have variations of Somanasa Sagata, Upekka Sagata, Jnana Sampyutta, Jnana Vipayutta, Asankarika, and Sasankarika. I'm going to do it in English. Those beautiful consciousnesses associated with happiness, associated with equanimity, with and without knowledge, and prompted and unprompted consciousnesses. In those variations, we have the kusala, the vipaka, and the functional, the wholesome, the resultant, and the functional chittas, which all make up 24 chittas. Right, which all make up 24 chittas.
Yeah.
Now, in these classifications or in these types of chittas, there are partisan chitta structures within this whole 24, where some of them would arise when a kusala is weak. For example, jnana vipayutta, right? Jnana vipayutta, upekka sagata jnana vipayutta, right? Where kusalas are weak, right? Where kusalas are weak. Now remember, a kusala, we know this, as Sri Lankans, you might know this much more, meaning, it is as much as you're really purely happy about the good that you do, that this sort of the greatness of the karma is, right? That is what we have heard, that is what is true, right? It is in that sort of happiness that you have in the heart with the proper intentions that makes the kusala good, big, and strong. There are certain times when these kusalas, now let's say you remember a good thing that you have done, right? However, let's say dana, you are a person who's given a lot of dana, right? Now this dana, depending on the ability, the mental stability, all of these things of a person, jnana, all of that kusala can be either strong or it can be weak. If it is weak, the patisandhi would take place out of a weaker alignment which aligns in the ahetuka, not the mahakusala or the mahavipaka, right? If it is weak, just like a gear change, right? You're going to your destination. However, you're going at a low gear, right? You're going at a low gear, it is going to automatically change to the ahetuka kusala vipaka, which is the same kusala, but a weaker alignment to that energy which crosses with that kusala, right? That is what then gives rise to that specific respective kusala that arises, or the kusala vipaka that arises, that strength. The same karma, but weaker, right? But weaker. That weakness prompts a different chitta to arise. So that difference is, it's not the mahavipaka, it is the kusala vipaka in the rootless, right? In the rootless. So the manodwara, so in that way, the manodwara vajra takes its object. What else, Damsiri? I feel like I understood your question.
Okay, now it takes the object.
Yeah.
Now, how it manifests, the akusala karma.
How the manifestation into reality happens.
That's right, yes.
Okay. So the manifestation of reality, right? Now you gave the example of dreaming.
No, just thinking.
Just imagining. Right.
Yeah, imagining, yeah.
Right. Now, a karma such as that, it does develop a karma, but a karma such as that, remember, Tadalambana is an important part of this.
All right, yeah.
Why? Because now, although we see Tadalambana here, remember in page number 166, although we see a Tadalambana there, do not be fooled. This Tadalambana is not the same as the Tadalambana in Chakku Vinyana Viti.
Okay.
This one is much weaker. Right? Because remember, Tadalambana is a process which is prompted by karma. And that process is much more stronger when it is physical attraction or physical phenomena of support.
Yeah.
Right? A physical phenomena of support. That Tadalambana flourishes, right? That Tadalambana flourishes with a physical support. So then how would, now let's say the imagining, that imagining process will never lead to Patisandhi, Chutti or Bhavanga.
That's right, yes.
It never leads to that.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
The Tadalambana process support is not there.
Yeah.
Tadalambana process support is not there. Now I feel like the others are a bit like, what the hell is going on? Am I in the right class or the wrong class? I'm not.
Bhante, can I just let you said two things, right? First thing is, when you're talking about Mahakusala, it's the same thing as, but that other Bhante talk called is Sahetuka, isn't it? Kusala. When you're saying, when you're talking about Mahakusala, the strong and the weak, right? So the strong is Mahakusala, is also the Sahetuka, he called it Sahetuka Kusala, no?
No. How can that
be? That's a beautiful 8, no? The Mahakusala, the beautiful one.
Absolutely wrong. Why? Take the meaning of the word. Sahetuka and Mahakusala. What is that between that? Ahetuka and Sahetuka.
Yes, with truth.
Is everything which is not Ahetuka. Right?
Yes. So the good, so you get the unwholesome ones, Bhante, right? And then you get the Ahetuka ones without roots.
Please.
And you get wholesome and 7 and 8.
Listen to me. If one was to ask you, right, if you were to explain Sahetuka as the Mahakusala, that is wrong, right? Yes, Mahakusalas are a part of the Sahetukas, but you cannot categorically say that the Mahakusalas are the Sahetukas.
Yes.
Right? The Sahetukas, take the meaning of the word. The Sahetukas is everything which is not the Ahetuka.
Right. Okay. Right? You have someone. Yes. So, and then you just now said, now this Tadalambana registration is much weaker in the mind objects than the physical, which is so strong. And in the mind also, if you look at those two, when it's a clear object, you even have a weak registration. But when it's an obscure object, there's no registration at all. Correct? Okay. Yeah. And then just now you mentioned that Mano Dwara Vajana takes on the object. Then you said when it's a weak one, you will not have give rise to the weaker Tadalambana won't give rise to Patisandhi, won't give rise to a Chutti, and won't give rise to something else.
No. Dil, please don't write it in that way. That is wrong.
Right?
You have, the thing is this. In sutras khanashat gahanna puluwan. Abhidharme khanashat gahanna baha.
Yeah.
Sorry. So now you mentioned 3 things. I couldn't get the first one. Okay. Khanashat gahanna. Karunakara කියලා දෙන්න තේරෙන විදියකට සමා වෙන්න.
No. The thing is, Bill, you have to be really specific, right? That is why in Abhidhamma, in sutras, yes, you can just line it, but in Abhidhamma you have to be really specific, right? Or else it's wrong, right? So the Tadalambana, why it can't be when the Tada, it's not because of the Tadalambana. It is because what circumstances allow for a Tadalambana to arise. That's the reason it cannot be Patisandhi Bhavanga or Chutti. right? Remember,
Okay. I follow now, Bhante. I missed that bang. Right. So all three come. Yeah.
no, I'm sure you still don't understand it, dear. Let me finish.
Thank you. I'm
No
sure
problem.
everybody will benefit. Thank you, Bhante.
Right? The purpose, the reason why, when there is no tadalambana, what it means is that it can be two things. Either it is weak, either there is no physical support. In both these circumstances, because of both of these circumstances, it cannot be a patisand, it cannot perform the part of patisandhi, bhavanga, and chuti.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
That's the purpose.
Yes.
Right? So it is to do with the strength.
Strength.
Right? It is to do the, so however much you might imagine of murder, you might dream of murder, however, those chittas will not prompt a hateful or a hateful resultant birth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's weak and it has no physical support.
Because because it is too weak. In a nutshell, it is too weak. If we were to go deeper, the tadalambanas are not there, which is a sign of weakness. It does not have the physical support, which does not allow. This is the nail, hitting the nail. The karma patha is not complete.
Yeah.
The karma patha needs to be completed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? The karma
Thank
patha,
you very much, Bhante, for repeating it.
yeah, the karma patha needs to be completed. Right. Now, yeah.
Back to
Back to
yeah.
Now I'm very apologetic to some of you. Don't I think we've gone through this, but this is a deeper analysis of the tadalambana, right? Of the process. Yeah. This is actually more considered and gone through in the Dhamma Sangani, right?
Yeah.
So this is actually a bipartisan study of the Dhamma Sangani. However, the what is the question again, Damsiri?
The manifestation of now you mentioned about the registration in manodvarajana chittaviti. Yeah.
So now, if that, with that example, with that imagination, how can that be manifested? It has to be a kamma vipaka. That is the first thing.
Yeah.
Right. Obvious. No. We were lying down in bed. We were imagining of something bad. We are going to take that bad example, example of the bad, and it doesn't have a physical base or root. It was all imaginary, right? So how can this be manifested? This will be manifested as a mano vinyana, right? Mano vinyana viti, right?
Yeah.
One of the consciousnesses belonging to the akusala ahetuka. Right?
Yeah.
Akusala ahetuka. Because why? Because of the weakness. First of all, it's akusala, unwholesome. Two, because of the weakness of the situation. Where else can it go, Damsiri?
Yeah.
Right? Where else can it go? It cannot go anywhere else. However, although we might assume that it did not have a physical support, if it did, then it can also be mano dhatu.
Okay. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Supported by mano dhatu because of the physical support.
Yeah.
If there was physical support, then it's mano dhatu. If there was no physical support, it can be any chitta belonging to the akusala, right? The akusala vipaka in the ahetuka. In the ahetuka. Right?
In the ahetuka. Okay. Yeah.
It cannot go anywhere else. Yes, Padma.
Yeah.
If it has physical support.
If it has physical
If it's a physical support, Bhante, then it's a manodhata. But if it didn't have, then it's akusala vipaka ahetuka.
If it didn't have, it is a mano vinyana.
Yes.
It's a mano vinyana dhatu. So
Yeah.
then it can, what called Dhamsiri's example, it can manifest in one of the akusala chittas, by one of the akusala chittas other than the mano dhatu within the ahetuka akusala.
Right.
You have to remove the 5 panchadwara, right, in the akusala, and the Sampatichana. And the rest can give rise to what Tam says. So it's probably the Santirana.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Right?
No, but,
Now,
can I ask something?
now there are three kinds of Santirana, remember, right? The Santirana, which is Akusala Vipaka, Kusala Vipaka, and the
Yeah.
Kusala Vipaka with Somanas.
So,
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
all these three kinds of Santirana support in that same process.
Yeah.
Right? However, in this specific example, what we have to take is that Akusala Vipaka. Right? What we have to take is that Akusala Vipaka. Is that clear, Damsiri?
Yeah, Bhante, so that means when you say all three Santirnas are supporting,
Then there's joy.
actually you are telling that it's a Tadalambana.
It could, no. The
Yeah.
thing is, the Tadalambana process, now the Santirna is not only Tadalambana, no.
Yeah, I know, yeah.
You know, however, that same supporting chitta can arise to support that consciousness process.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
You know, the chittas, I mean, Dhammasari, we know the chitta can do these different functions.
Yeah.
Just like the chittas with the Patisandhi function, the Chuti function, Bhavanga function, the attraction function, the taking function, all of these functions. So this same chitta, while the Tadalambana is there, it can also do this function.
Yeah.
Right? Padma?
no, what I was going to say was all the akusala vipakas are the ahetuka ones, isn't it? So everything that is like in our when we have a akusala, what shall I say? No, whenever we have a akusala thing like a bad vision or a bad dream or a bad sound or bodily harm, it all comes through akusala resultant chittas. Is that correct?
Not really.
No, akusala resultant rootless chittas, sorry.
Yes and no. Remember, we went through that section of Dhamma where we spoke about it can be because of akusala vipaka, it can be because of dhatu kopa, which is the changes in the elements of the body, right?
Right.
It can be because of a physical sort of thing that is running through your head. There are 4 reasons, right?
Oh, I didn't know that. No.
And the devas, right? For these reasons and sort of deity imposed, right? For these reasons, we can have these different consciousnesses running in our mind. For example, actually, that is spoken of why we have bad dreams or dreams, right? So that is spoken of as kamma, devadinna, dhatukopa, and there's one more. Dhatukopa, and there's one more. I remember that one last one. But there are 4, right? So because of those reasons, remember, it's not all because of kamma. I know that is a traditional way that we have been taught, but it really isn't, right? It really isn't. And remember, most of these kammas, now when we do, this is now the Buddha explains, now there is kamma, right? Now mundane kamma. When we develop vipassana, samadhi, all of this, remember vipassana kamma is much more stronger than this mundane kamma. Right? So vipassana kamma, that is how vipassana kamma has the ability and power to suppress nivarana, hindrances. Right?
Nivarana is hindrances, yeah.
Hindrances. It has the power to suppress hindrances. When this is there, now for example, let's take an example, how does that happen? Right? Now this is what you must think, don't sort of accept just because, Bhante is saying it. How does it happen? Now let's say you go to a devalaya. Now people are more afraid of devas than the Buddha, no? Right? So you go to, let's say, Khathargama Devalaya or some Munneswaran, no, I don't know wherever it is, right? So you go and you're standing with that puja vakya, right? Now when you're there, you dare not think anything bad, isn't it? Right? Now that is the same way where now because of that respect, now you're not even afraid. It's because of that respect that you have for that place, right? And the aura and the vibrance that place has, you are not even, you might be a very hateful person or a very sort of akusala person, but for that moment, because of the respect that is built, for that moment you're subdued, right? The vipassana energy is also like that, right? So it is not only because of karma, Padma, it can be because of other different reasons as well, right? Remember that karma is energy. So the more good energy and the more powerful energy that you develop, right, the lesser chance there is for this mundane negativity to come up.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And the more that you, now let's say this is mundane positivity, right? Mundane positivity too is overtaken by supramundane positivity.
Okay.
I'm using the word positivity only to sort of say wholesome, right? It is not anything to do with optimism. It is to do with wholesome, right? So that supramundane wholesome, it suppresses and pushes down that which suppresses and does not let this arise.
Okay. All right.
Does not let this arise. So that energy is done by, that whole part of energy is karma. However, that is not the only thing, right? That is not the only thing that gives rise to the karmas. There are different reasons.
Bhante, please, when you said, I understand about the deities and the karma and the vipassana, when you said dhatu kopa, what exactly do you mean?
Dhatu kopavima is the upsetting of the what are the in the Vedas, the gas, what is it? Not the gas.
Vayu,
Wow.
pit,
Yes.
and
Ah,
there's one for bile.
by
Yes.
kappa, that those things kappa and something and something.
Yeah.
But actually it's referring to the 4 elements of the body.
Right.
Yeah,
But it's not dhatu, no, like patavi, apo, tejo, vayu. A bit like that, but not exactly.
No, it is, right? It is in the Vedas, they would explain it as Vata, Pitta, and Sem, right?
Yeah.
Actually, it is the 4 elements.
Right.
It is the upsetting of the 4 elements. It's like, for example, if you go out in a cold, you're going to come out with a runny nose or a chesty cough, or something of that sort. The upsetting of the elements.
Right. Okay.
Right, which can be done through, I don't know, the temperature, maybe food, maybe sickness, maybe traveling to a different destination, all of those things, right?
Thank you, Bhante.
Right.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Padma,
Bhante, can I ask a question?
yes,
Bhante?
yes. Just to clarify, Padma, clear?
Yes, I'm glad I asked it because I didn't realize that. I might read up on it.
Because you see, I think traditionally being Sri Lankan now, growing up in a very Buddhist atmosphere, we are all taught that, it is all karma. It's really not. It's really not. And in most instances, it's mostly our stupidity.
Okay.
Because remember, like what Damsiri mentioned and what the question that he put forth, remember, and how I answered that, the ahetuka kusala and akusala, they are only facilitators.
Right.
It is like, for example, if the eyes had a cord which connected to a socket, that cord that connects to the socket is the akusala. And I'm sorry, ahetuka karma. It is like that little spark of energy which allows the eyes to operate.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Which allows the eyes to operate. It doesn't intrinsically cause you to go to heaven or go to hell or do all of any of that.
Okay.
Those are the more powerful karmas which comes in to sort of disturbing the patavi, apo, tejo, vayu around you, to disturb the thought patterns and the thinking patterns, which runs a more complex structure of operation.
Okay, thank you.
Bhante, about Padma's question, is it the niyama you are talking about? Is the niyama?
No.
Padma's question is the niyama I am talking about.
Because you said other than karma, there are factors which can give you
it's not
bad results.
It's not, well, we can't say that it's the niyama. right?
Something other than the niyama.
We could, I mean, there would be ways that we could connect the dhatu kopa vima into the niyamas, for sure.
Physical
With
one.
the upsetting of the elements, we could connect that into
With the niyama.
Uttaniyama. However, it is not specific. We don't talk about both those things in relation to one another, right? Because when we talk about the niyamas, it's a different thing that we're talking about. The thing is, all of these can be connected, right? However, it is important that we know when to connect it, or else we often get sort of confused, right?
Okay.
So Bhante, is it the reason that the Buddha said now? So we had like Mala said, we had the 5 niyamas and karma is one. Now we have 3 other things, or 4 of which you mentioned 3, the deities and the dhatu and the karma and some other 4 things. And is that why the Buddha said that if you try to really understand karma properly, that you go out of your mind, because there are so many factors that come in. Is that why he explained?
Well, surely whatever the Buddha referred to as going out of your mind when thinking achintaniya,
Yeah.
or can't be thought of, is much more complex than what we are talking about, for sure, right? No doubt about that. But I'm sure in terms of seeing the reasons and structure for different karmas to arise, and all of these different things, because it is the karmic the karmic structure that we have, right? I mean, look at all of us. We are very different to one another. We might have similarities, but for example, if you take your siblings, if I am to take my sibling, how uniquely different are we? These are all karmic structures, isn't it? So just imagine that variance, that sort of vibrance and that uniqueness in that DNA code, right? Which has been facilitated by those kammas and those chittada kamma rupas, and all of that kammaj rupas and chittada rupas and all of that. Look how unique we are, right? I mean, what more of an example do we need, right? What more of an example? We just have to look around. We are very unique to one another. It is not necessarily say it's good or bad. It is just the way it is, right? Because we think in different patterns, our ways of taking it in, understanding, it's all different, right? So expecting in a world of such difference and vibrance, expecting people to be like you is, I would say, is a foolishness, isn't it? Right, next question. Noili, we haven't even started the lesson today.
We give it a break. This is interesting, Bhante.
Yeah, Noili, please.
We were talking about registration a lot today. This registration is restricted to sense sphere plane. Any reason for that?
Yes. Now, Tadalambana will not arise in the Rupa Vachara Bhumi and the Arupa Vachara Bhumi, right? Why is that? Because of the lack of physical pertinence.
Sorry, lack of?
Physical pertinence.
No
so the physical support for Tadalambana to be is not there in both of those realms, right? Even in the Rupa Vachara, right? Even in the Rupa Vachara, the physical support is not enough, right? Now, Arupa Vachara, there is no talk about it. No, it's Arupa, right? In the Rupa Vachara plane, then what that sort of hints at is that the mind of a being within the Rupa Vachara plane is also not, what's the word, sort of bogged down, held down, clung on to such an, although there is the assumed attraction, the subtle attraction to Rupa, which allows a being to be born in the Rupa Vachara plane, that attraction is too subtle for a Tadalambana to arise. It is not pertinent, strong enough. That is the reasoning which is given in the Abhidhamma as to why Tadalambana does not arise in both the Rupa Vachara and Arupa Vachara Bhumi. I mean, if you do not believe it, or if you can't understand it, think about the chittas which gives rise to a birth in the Rupa Vachara plane, right? We have gone through the jhanas, isn't it? Yeah. We've gone through the jhanas. Those jhanas, as we've gone through them, the vitaka drops, the vichara drops, the vitaka, vichara, priti, sukha, ekaga, sukha, all of that drop, right? A loving one to then reach a state of equanimity, right? However, now in that, the focus in these sort of standards of jhana are at a realm or a place where it is very subtle, right? That is why it is very difficult, it is very difficult to enter the jhana, right? And it's very difficult to drop the craving for karma, where you then go into arupa. I'm sorry, the craving for rupa, where you now go to arupa. That part is difficult, and the entry is difficult. The middle sections are quite easy, it is said, right? In terms of this relation, it is because of that sort of different pattern of understanding, but we know that it is in a state which is very different to how we would work with materials. I mean, anything. I mean, you bring a bottle of spaghetti sauce, you try to keep the bottle, right? Now, I have kept it also for water, actually. That's for the environment. But still, I thought it was a nice bottle to drink water out of. You know, you see, it was to be trash, right? But in that kind of way, we might try to say, yes, saving the environment, that's all good, that's all positive. What we are talking about is that attraction that is built on, right? The attraction that we build towards any sort of material that arises in the world around.
So Bhante, then in the asanna satta, where there is no mind at all, there also, you won't be, it will also belong to the same group of the supramundane. And
again, Dil, if you say no mind at all, that's going to be wrong again, right?
that's what they explain, Bhante.
Right. But,
only the body they say.
We know better. We know better now, because we know how the asana satta plane is sort of managed. But in that, again, what's the question?
So I said that also will be like the question that Noeline, I think, asked. So you get you get the sensory realms, and then you get the higher realms, right? So they will because there's no physicality, or even in the rupa vatara, which is very subtle, where we won't class them for this tadalambana or this registration. So the asana satta also would belong to the higher one. Yeah. Thank you, Bhante.
Yeah, for sure. There's no doubt in that. Okay. Although there's a physical, remember, the mind is in such a state of bliss, or rather, you can't even, I mean, there's no word to explain that. Nothingness, but we can't even say nothingness. That it is not focused on the body. So tadalamana will surely not be there. And the Brahmins do not have tadalamana. Right? So that is clear. Any other questions?
Thank you, Bhante.
Yeah. Yes. And I think on the calculation, I think Bhante made a small, Venerable Mahisara made a small error on that, I think. But it is good. Bring that up next week. Someone bring that up and get it corrected. So other than that, I think we are good to jump. You have something to say?
Yeah, I think Dharmasara Bhante, Mahindsara Bhante said that he's going to actually explain it again with much more details, because he was telling this very broad brush. That's why he made the calculation a little bit incorrect.
Yeah. I mean,
I think when he did the talk, he said one thing, then somebody asked a question, and then when he quickly tried to say, then the things. But I think Mala and Dharmasari had done a beautiful chart, which I reminded my medical college days, because things are so clearly put into sections. So I think one of you can ask that question, because you got that chart and we all have it in our emails. And so we know what you're talking about. And let's see how Bhante explains that.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, yes, Bhante does not know that, we have a good army of...
Yeah. Because the thing is, we can look at a chart and say he's telling from his memory when the questions are going very fast. So when you recollect, sometimes, you go. But we have it in front of us and we have it in there. And so we can relate to what Mala and Dharmasari are saying.
Of course. Now, something else that I want to talk about before we move on to the other section is now because we were speaking about Manodwara Vachana, is now when we talk about Yonismansikara and Ayonisamansikara in a circumstance as for example, when you endure pain, right? And we, because we are all also meditation practitioners, and we also are aware of the attraction and the clinging on to pain, remember that attraction and clinging on to pain, and with the law of how the previous consciousnesses govern, or rather affect future consciousnesses to arise, that also affects the future Yonisomanskaras and Ayonisomanskaras and the way that they arise, right? Meaning, now when one attaches to the pain, for example, let us say that, because of some unfortunate occurrence, you fall into, or you experience a lot of pain, right? A lot of pain. And because of this pain, and when one clings on to this pain and clings on to this pain and is rather brought down by this pain that arises, right, within the body, this pain, the clinging on to or attaching onto this pain, creates an atmosphere of mind where now that clinging on becomes a habitual pattern in the mind. Do you get it? Right? So clearly, a person, so now for a person to shift from Ayonisomanskara or unwise attention to right attention is going to be very difficult. Right? Is going to be very difficult. Hold on, please. Now, that is where the Buddha says, do not even allow a tiny bit of unwholesome to arise, because you see, when now it is like, if we are eating, if we are having a savory meal, right, the dessert or the fruit that is served, which is quite sweet and which is quite different to the rest of the curries and all of that we had, it has a very strong flavor, isn't it? Right? Similarly, for the mind, the same happens, where there is a deeper attraction to that, because what you experience most is of a different taste, right? So similarly, if a person is practicing, let's say, kusala, right, there is a nature of mind where a person might easily find an attraction to the akusala if the wisdom is not balanced. Why? Because that is a little bit different. It's a bit more exciting, you see. It's a bit more exciting, right? Maybe that is why people come to temples and steal things, they like to live on the edge. but that law is there. So that is also to do with this structure of the mind, which takes place as in the Mano Dwara Bhajana, because that is where it is wise attention, unwise attention is determined. Right? Wise attention and unwise attention. So every time that this consciousness arises, or these sorts of attitudes arise, regardless of whether wise, unwise, or kusala or akusala, it is very important for one to be aware of that situation of mind. Right? To observe, to be aware, to note that situation of mind. Right? Yes, Dil.
Bhante, when I'm looking at this chart on page 155, which is a complete IDO process, I remember you saying that, so now you get this fast bhavanga, vibration bhavanga, arrest bhavanga, then you get the FIDO adverting, and by that time, and then you get the eye conscious or whatever other ear conscious, by that time it's come on to the mind, and then you get receiving, investigation, and when we did the determination, you said at that point only the yoniso and aniso manasikara, the both appana, there's an effect before you come on to all the chitta.
Looking at 166.
Page 155.
155, okay.
So that's the complete IDO process.
Yeah.
where we had that whole, the stream of bhavanga becoming past bhavanga, then it becomes a vibration of bhavanga, rest bhavanga. Then you have, by that, then it goes to mind. So you get the 5-door adverting, then you get the eye conscious, which is also a mind or process, or the manodwara. Then you get the sampatita and the sankirna, the receiving investigation. Then you get determining, which is the votappana. And I remember making a note there saying that the yonisa ayosina manasikara, at that point, you can determine in the way we are telling now. Is that right or wrong? I have made a note and put it like that. I don't know whether I'm wrong.
Manodwara, which is found here, right?
Yeah. Now receiving investigation of determining the votappana. So at that votappana, before you get all this, the VT process, I have written there and make a note. I don't know if they're written in the wrong place. That this yonisa, ayonisa, that determining. So that's what you're saying, determining that votappana at that point in that chart, box number 8. That at that time, this yonisa, manisa, what you're saying, if your past has been like that, you can, if you've had a lot of pain, then you look it in ayonisa way. So is that the correct point there, determining number 8? Is that where that happens before it starts?
Yes.
I put a mark there and written. I don't know whether it's right or wrong.
Yes, it's votappana. Votappana is manodwara.
Right. Okay. No, votappana is determining consciousness.
That is a manodwara consciousness.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Bhante.
Right. That is votappana is another word that we use to mention that it is a
right. Okay. Okay, Bhante.
Right.
Right. Thank you, Bhante.
All right. Shall we move on with the lesson then? All right. So let's turn to page number 166. Right. Guide to paragraph 13. Guide to paragraph 13. 3 modes. No, let's read from the summary. 3 modes and 10 different states in the cognitive process are told. It should be explained that in detail there are 41 kinds here. Herein, this is the limited Javana section. Guide to paragraph 13, 3 modes, etc. The 3 modes of the process chittas are mindo-adverting, Javana, and registration. The 10 stages of consciousness are obtained by taking the Javana 7 times and registration twice. The 41 chittas here include all the sense sphere chittas except the 2 sets of 5-fold sense consciousness, the 5-door adverting and the 2 kinds of receiving consciousness. The 3 investigating chittas occur here with the function of registration, determining the determining chitta with the function of mindo adverting, right? Of mindo adverting. Let's read that again, please, right? The 3 modes, etc. The 3 modes of the process chittas are mindo adverting, Javana, and registration. The 10 states of consciousness are obtained by taking the Javana 7 times and registration twice. So that becomes 7 plus, right? 7 plus 2. The 41 chittas here include all the sense sphere chittas except the 2 sets of 5-fold sense consciousness, the 5-door adverting, and 2 kinds of receiving consciousness. The 3 investigating chittas occur here with the function of registering, the determining chitta with the function of mindo adverting. Let's now see what that is all about, right? All right. The process of absorption, mindo, in absorption javanas in the mindo, right? Appana javana manodwara viti, right? Appana javana manodwara viti. In the occurrence of javanas in absorption, there is no distinction between clear and obscure object. That should be clear, right? Right? We'll read the paragraph. Likewise, there is no arising of registration consciousness. In this case, in the process of absorption, in this case, any one of the 8 sense sphere jhavanas accompanied by knowledge arises and ceases 4 times or 3 times in due order as preparation, access, conformity, and change of lineage, right? And change of lineage. Immediately after they cease, in the 4th or 5th moment, as the case may be, any one of the jhavanas among the 26 types of sublime, any one of the jhavanas among the 26 types of sublime or supramundane jhavanas enters upon the process of absorption in accordance with the way the mind is conveyed. After that, at the end of absorption, there is a subsidence into the life continuum, into the life continuum, right? Into the life continuum. Now, that is, it might all sound very complicated. It is not, right? I promise you, it is not that complicated. It is what it is saying. Now, if we just revisit, we will be going into it deeper. It is mentioning when it comes to the processes of the mind or processes, or sorry, processes of the mind can or are named or do different, operate in certain different ways or to achieve different states at different periods of its existence, right? That is why, for example, now we use the word term manodvara vachana, we use the term vottapana, we use the term gotrabu. Now this is to specify a certain quality that is performed by it at that specific time or point of arising. Now it's the same vottapana. Now if we take vottapana, which is determining, right, and if we take gotrabu, which is the change of lineage, right? Now vottapana is what is used to define or to collaborate on a chakkudwara chittaviti, right? A chakkudwara chittaviti. Gotrabu is the word which is given or used in place of vottapana when it comes to the moment of enlightenment, to sort of designate that that mind at that point of time jumps. Right now, it doesn't really jump, you see, but the experience of enlightenment, is so much so that it changes. You are, it is like, just imagine, right? You have never, let's say you are living in a place, in a city, you have never been out of this city, this concrete jungle. You have never been out of this. In your mind, you think the concrete jungle is the best. It's the most beautiful place. It's the most, it's the best the world has to offer, right? You are one of those people who lives under a rock, right? Or rather, in this case, under cement, right? One of those people. Then someone takes you out. One fine day, with a bit of luck, you have been taken out of your concrete forest to a real forest, to see some greenery, to see some hills, to see something other than the forest. Now you are a changed man. You are a changed person. You have seen something different. Now your view and outlook on life has changed. Do you get what I mean? Right? That's what happens in the same way as change of lineage, right? Everything that you thought was true, everything that you knew as pleasure and ultimates of pleasure, right, now has all changed in almost suddenly. Almost suddenly, it has now changed. That is what Gotrabu does. But you see, the Vottamana experience is not that strong. That is why we choose a different name for the same chitta, because why? Now the chitta is able to perform a task that is far more greater than it usually performs, right? Far more greater than it usually performs, right? It is somewhat like the Saturday Sunday meditations, when before coffee and after coffee for me. we are now, where you know someone is trying, right? But still, you see, there is something different. Now, that is what we are going to talk about in this Appana Jamana. So it's not confusing. Do you want to go through the paragraph, just to read through the paragraph again? Yeah? Okay, let's read it again. Paragraph 14, the process of absorption. In the occurrence of jhana in absorption, there is no distinction between clear and obscure, right? Why is that? Because, it is an energy which is flowing. There is no Atma, right? There is no Atma. There is no, what is given is processed, right? What is given is processed. That is why there is no clear distinction between clear and obscure. Also, in another way, both clear and obscure, although we might refer to them in this kind of way, both consciousnesses, they are much more weaker than the consciousnesses which have the support of the physicality, right? The physicality. It is far, so in that way, it is not very distinctly different from one another, right? Now, distinctly different from one another. Likewise, there is no arising of registration consciousness. In that case, any one of the 8 sense sphere jhavanas accompanied by knowledge arises and ceases 4 times or 3 times, right? 4 times or 3 times in due order as preparation, access, conformity, and change of lineage. Immediately after they cease, in the 4th or 5th moment, as the case may be, any one of the jhavanas among the 26 types of sublime or supramundane jhavanas enters upon the process of absorption in accordance with the way the mind is conveyed. After that, at the end of absorption, there is subsidence into the life continuum. Let's see what that is all about, right? Absorption, appana. Appana primarily signifies a highly developed form of vitakka. Initial application of the mind. Remember vitakka, right? Initial application of the mind. Does everyone remember vitakka? We don't have to go through vitakka, no? Do we have to? We will go through it if anyone wants to. Yeah, okay.
Yes, please.
Okay. Okay. So who might this be? Have you just joined the class?
Well, yeah, I just actually searched it online because my I was talking about an Abhidhamma class with my mom and my family, so I just searched it online.
So vitakka, initial application of the mind, right? Initial application of the mind. This is the way the mind adverts to an object or takes an object, right? It is the focus which is given to a certain object the moment an object appears within one of the 5 sensory doors, right? So for further clarifications, anyone can visit the recordings that we have up on our YouTube channel. But for now, we will stick on to that definition, right? So now vitakka, with thrust, form of vitakka, initial application of the mind, which thrusts the associated mental states so deeply into the object that they may become absorbed in it, right? That they may become absorbed in it. Now, this is often experienced even through meditation, right? Remember, when you go into a sensation and the sensation almost disappears, or you feel like you are in the breath or in the sensation or in the palm of your hand or in your skin, right? Or if you are outside and you're aware of the sun on your skin and this feeling almost takes over. Now that is that kind of feeling where now the mind has penetrated so deep into that object that you are all about that object, right? Let's go forward. Let's go ahead and see what else. Or the vitakka is absent in the jhanas beyond the first. Remember, beyond the first, it's absent. Because the mind that has entered jhana becomes fixed one pointedly on its object. Because the mind that has entered jhana becomes fixed one pointedly on its object. The word appana comes to be extended to all meditative attainments. So appana is also used as another word for also samadhi, right? Sometimes they also say appana samadhi, right? Appana also refers to focus, sati, samadhi. Because why? Remember, what is the definition of samadhi? The ability to maintain an object, the mind upon one object while there is many, right? Actually, that is just one definition of samadhi, quite a popular one in terms of meditation, right? So this is referring to that ability. The word appana comes to be extended to all meditative attainments pertaining to the fine material, immaterial, and supramundane planes, right? There is no distinction between clear and obscure objects. Clear and obscure objects. Any questions regarding to that part? Okay. There is no distinction between clear and obscure objects. This distinction is not found in relation to absorption because meditative attainments are only possible when the object is clearly apprehended. When the object is clearly apprehended. In this case, any one of the 8 sense sphere jhanas arises. When the meditator is about to achieve a jhana, a path, or fruition. First, there arises mind or adverting. Then, in the same cognitive process as attainment, immediately preceding it, a series of sense sphere jhanas runs its course in quick succession, leading the mind from the sense sphere plane to absorption. In the case of a worldling or a trainee, these jhanas will be one of the 4 wholesome sense sphere chittas accompanied by knowledge. In the case of an arahant, one of the 4 functional sense sphere chittas accompanied by knowledge. We'll do that paragraph again, right? There is no distinction between clear and obscure. Why is this? This distinction is not found in relation to absorption because the meditative attainments are only possible when the object is clearly apprehended, right? Remember, for a jhanic absorption to happen, we spend a lot of time contemplating and trying to fixate ourselves upon this object that we then use to achieve the states of jhana. Right? The kasinas, the elements, and all of these other, the 40 meditation subjects died or spoken of as the 40 kammattanas for samatha meditation, tranquility meditations, right? Those are all objects that we sort of focus on for a long time up until we are able to now use it for absorption, right? To continue along our path of absorption. In this case, any one of the 8 sense sphere jhanas arises, right? Now, what are the 8 sense sphere jhanas? Do you all remember? Who remembers the 8 sense sphere jhanas? Noeli?
Beautiful jhavanas.
The beautiful.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yes. Can we have the full name, please?
With knowledge.
Is it the beautiful jhanas? Are we sure about that? The 8 sense sphere jhanas? Is it beautiful?
I think so.
Yeah. Which is it? Yes or no?
Yes, Bhante, I think so.
Yes, it is.
Oh, you thought I was wrong.
Yes, it is.
Sorry.
All right. Yeah, yes, it is. Yeah, it's the 8 beautiful, right? Okay. Any one of the 8 sense sphere jhavanas arises. When the meditator is about to achieve a jhana, right? When the meditator is about to achieve a jhana, a path or fruition. First, there arises mind-o-adverting. First, there arises mind-o-adverting. Then, in the same cognitive process as the attainment, immediately preceding it, a sense sphere jhana runs its course in quick succession, leading the mind from the sense sphere plane to the absorption. In the case of a worldling or a trainee, these jhanas will be the 4 wholesome, or it can be the 4 functional. We know that already, right? That is clear. Any questions? Right? Any questions? No. Now, if you refer back to the clear object, right? If you refer back to the clear object, that is what they're talking about. But how we go into a jhana, right? How we go into that jhana, right? Remember, in most instances, when the word appana is used, it is often referred to these achievements, right? These meditative achievements and attainments, right? In due order as preparation, etc. In an individual with average faculties, these preliminary jhavanas occur 4 times. In an individual with average faculties, these preliminary jhavanas occur 4 times. That is, we'll go ahead. Occur 4 times. Each one exercising a different preliminary function. The first is called preparation, right? Parikamma. Because it prepares the mental continuum for the attainment to follow. The next is called access, upachara, because it arises proximately to the attainment. The third moment is called conformity, anuloma, because it arises in conformity with both the preceding moment and the subsequent absorption. The 4th moment is called change of lineage, gotrabu. In the case of jhana attainment, it receives this name because it overcomes the sense sphere lineage and evolves the lineage of sublime consciousness, right? In the case of the first path attainment, this moment is called change of lineage because it marks the transition from the lineage of worldlings to the lineage of noble ones. The expression continues to be used figuratively for the moment of transition to higher paths and fruits, though sometimes it is designated by a different name, vodana, meaning cleansing, right? In an individual with especially keen faculties, the moment of preparation, parikamma, is omitted, and thus only 3 preliminary sense sphere jhavanas occur prior to absorption, right? Now, usually, first of all, these people with keen and average faculties, this means in Pali, we often come across the word tikka panya, right? It's not tikka, it's tikka panya, right? Which is to say, now, for example, the Buddha, obviously, for obvious reasons, was a person of keen intellect. Now, this is a person who it's not to do with intelligence. It's the penetrative, insightful wisdom that one is able to muster and to sort of control at will, right? That is what this is really, you know, it is not about how intelligent a person is, right? It's that keen intellect, right? That person has, that sharpness that person has, right? Now it is said, now I heard many of you, some of you sort of speaking about, you know, what is the best place to sort of go and sort of, you know, be at and all of that, right? And I know that traditionally go to after death, right? And we have traditionally been taught, you know, if we go to the Brahma realms, this would happen, and, you know, we'll be there for a long time. Or if we go to the Deva realms, we would be there for a long time, you know. And so the best place is to, you know, what my now, the thing that was running through my mind when that was being discussed on Sunday was, you know, sometimes we think, you know, I am going on a diet. Now you know where I'm going, right? We start in the morning. By the end of the day, the diet is finished and over, right? When we find it so difficult to stick on to something as simple as a diet, why are we sort of trying to plan out that existence beyond death, right? It just does not make sense. But people like the Buddha did do it, right? People like Sakra, people like the Buddha, people who had so much of confidence within their towards their actions, bodily, verbally, and physically, were able to do it. However, remember, again, I'm quoting this sutta, we need to do it on a day, you know, in the Majjhima Nikaya, the fourth sutra in the Majjhima Nikaya, we need to do it. Is what the Buddha says is, what you want will be fulfilled, but what your focus should be is not in what you want, but the focus should be is what you have to develop to get what you want, right? If we are focusing, the thing is, because these states of achievement come through a lot of polishing, and when we are just focusing on sort of getting to a place, we might not be focusing on the polishing up of the faculties and the equipment that we are going to this place with. The Buddha says, focus on that sila, sati, chaga, adhimokha, virya, panya, right? Which then leads to equate that to where you want to go. Focus on polishing that part and forget about all else, and you will reach that stage, equating to what level of polishing you have, right? If there is no disturbing karma, garuka karma, which arises, which happened to, of course, people like Ajatasattu, if you remember, right? He had this enormous merit, but during the time that he was with Devadatta, he also accumulated enormous akusala by killing his father, or sort of planning to kill his father, right? Same, Moggallana, Venerable Moggallana had this enormous merit, right? But died of murder, right? He was murdered, right? In the same way, right? If those karmas are not there, you will experience, you know, the simile of a log in a river. If without any hindrances, you will reach, right? But the log doesn't need to be thinking about the ocean. The log just needs to go on the path, right? The log just needs to go on the path. So really, of course, I mean, you know, being young and all of these things, it's easy to say, but I understand the amount of anxiety that most of our beloved students might be under. But remember that, you know, I mean, I think we are very Dhammic people, right? So just imagine, if you are so frightened, just imagine how the people who are without Dhamma might be frightened. Actually, they are not even thinking about it. Right? So remember, we hold the Dhamma from one side and we think, okay, we need to think about this. But remember, Those people who are not into Dhamma might not be really thinking about it, hence ending up in might be a better place sometimes. Because why? The anxiety of death is not there, right? We are studying Dhamma, however, we are clinging on to that part. Where am I going to be reborn? Excuse me, haven't I been teaching you far more things than where you are going to be reborn? Why are we only focusing on where we are going to be reborn? That is where you practice the letting go, right? And trusting in the life that you have led, right? And if you feel that you have, like all of us have, good and bad, pure parts and impure parts, accept it and just move on, right? That's the best in that is what the practice is, you see. Right? If now, for example, the Buddha, the West has a big problem with the Buddha when it comes to the Buddha abandoning Yashodhara and not Sujata. I was looking at Sujata's name and I said Sujata. So not Sujata, Yashodhara and the son, right? The West has a big problem with this. However, yes, clearly it might be a problem. After committing to it, there was an abandonment. But what we sort of standardizes or say okay to it by is by saying, because it was something that with a noble cause. However, regardless, in one way or another, we could say, yes, maybe that was a fault. However, the Buddha was able to attain enlightenment and enlighten Yashodhara and the son as well. Regardless, all of us, we have our good parts and bad parts. Let's not focus on the beyond. Let's live this part well, right? And carry this sort of same chitta structure to the next, so we can, wherever we are, right? Because remember, all these Brahmas, Devas, most of them are keen intellect individuals. Most of them are. So achieving and attaining is much, much more easy in those planes and in this, right? Than in this, because of that keen intellect that is there. Okay. So thank you very much. Yeah, I can't take any question because I have a meeting now, but thank you very much. If you do have any questions, we will answer them next week. I will see you all on Wednesday, right? And good work. Keep on studying, and keep on studying and practicing, of course. Take care, and I'll see you on Wednesday.
Thank you. Everyone, Bhante.